Sampling is a powerful tool that sociologists have to understand the views and attitudes and behaviors of people in a broad population, but where it's impractical to try to survey or interview everyone in a broad population, we have to select a smaller group, or what we call a sample. But if we want that sample to be generalizable, if the findings we uncover, if we want them to most likely apply to the broader population, we have to be thoughtful in how we sample them. We can't just grab anybody. That'd be called a convenience sample, and that's generally not rigorous enough for sociological research. So there's two main categories of sampling. There's probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling means that there's a probability that everyone in the population has a chance of being selected for your sample. That is the most generalizable, but it's often impractical. Now, if you're the principal of a school and you want to know something about the students in your school, you probably do have a list of every student, and you could do simple random sampling. It's a form of probability sampling where you just randomly draw numbers until, say, you got 2,500 high schoolers and you want to know what 200 of them think about, say, some educational practice. You could randomly draw numbers until you get the 200 you want, and that is the most broadly generalizable. We call it random sampling because you're randomly choosing a number, but it's not random in the sense that it's just anyone off the street that's convenient, right? There's an equal chance that everyone in the entire population could be drawn. Now, if you're interested in statewide behavior, nationwide behavior, that's impractical. Only the U.S. government tries to survey and interview the entire population. It's called the census, and they only do it every 10 years. In most cases, we're drawing a sample. If you have a list, that's great. That's probability sampling. You can do simple random. Or if you know some features of the population, you want to make sure it's representative. Let's go back to our high school principal example. You know that there's 55% female students, 45% male students. Then as you're drawing your random sample, you make sure that you have a certain strata. You're hitting those percentages. That's called stratified sampling. It's also a form of probability sampling. There's systematic sampling, which is a form of probability sampling. Maybe you're a race director and you want to know people's experience in a 5K, and out of thousands of people, you're going to randomly draw names to send a survey. But you want to make sure that you're drawing people from, say, the fastest finishers all the way through to the people pushing strollers at the end of the race. And you draw a random number, maybe from the first 50, and then you draw another random number from every 50th person all the way down the line. That way you have representation from all the people based on their finishing times. And if somebody in that first 50 doesn't respond, then you draw another number from that first 50. That would be systematic sampling. In other cases, you might not have a list of every person, but you have a list of something else that the people are in. This is called cluster sampling. So maybe you're not the principal of a high school, but you're the Secretary of Education person that wants to know about student perceptions. And so now if you were the Secretary of Education, maybe you would have a list of every student in the state. I don't know. But what you could do is say, all right, but what I do have is a list of every high school. And so you could get that off of Google if you Googled for your state. So you're going to randomly sample high schools, and then you're going to try to get access to survey students in those high schools. And you could apply other features to it, like stratified sampling. You want a certain percentage or strata of race or gender or grade level or variety of the GPA level, things like that. You could do the systematic sampling for some reason. Take the GPA. You want students from different ranges. All of those are possible techniques you can choose based on the project you have for probability sampling. Now, in some cases, based on who you're studying, there just isn't a list. You have to find the people you can find. This is non-probability sampling. It's not as generalizable, but it doesn't mean there aren't powerful implications for that population of interest that you're trying to find out more about. Within non-probability sampling, there is convenient sampling, but as I already mentioned, we try to avoid that. At the very minimum, you want to do what's called purposive sampling. It means you're sampling people, the people you pick for your study, with a purpose. That's the key root word there in purposive. And maybe you want to study experiences of immigrants in your community. If you can find immigrant families then that's a strong enough purpose to interview or survey them because they match that criteria. Or maybe you want to know about female CEOs of mid-sized companies. Okay, first you need to operationalize what is mid-size and conceptualize, so know what define your terms here. But any female CEO of a mid-sized company that you can find willing to fill out your survey or interview with you or whatever collection technique you're using would count as purposive. That's not just convenient sampling because it's a specific subpopulation that you're going after. Now, in other cases, it's very difficult to gain access to people. And so this is even less generalizable, but you might need to rely on the network of the person you're sampling to help you find more people in that same subpopulation. We call this snowball sampling, and it's powerful when you might only know a few people or how to gain access to a few people of your population of interest, but birds of a feather flock together. It's likely that those people might know other people that match the criteria. Sometimes, especially if a sociologist is studying illegal behavior, illicit behavior, stigmatized behavior. Maybe you're studying homelessness. Maybe you're studying sex workers. Maybe you're studying gang members. Maybe you're studying hate group members. And you don't have a list or a way of finding these people yourself, but you're able to gain rapport with some and then ask if they know anybody that they might introduce you to that would also be interested in participating. Again, it's not as generalizable, but it is definitely done with purposive, and it's what we call snowball because you're using the network of the people you can find to expand the number of people in your sample. Lastly, we would have quota sampling, which you can add. Say you are studying gang members in a city and you know the, say, ethnic makeup of that city. Maybe you have quotas. You want to make sure that you are drawing gang members. And you could be using other methods too. So it's purposive. It could be snowball at the same time. But you also are trying to hit a certain quota of, say, white gang members and black gang members and Latino gang members. And some of these techniques can be tiled together. But the biggest division between them is probability and non-probability. Does everybody have at least some statistical probability of being included in the sample? If so, it's a probability sample. And if not, then it's non-probability. If it's probability, it has the strongest generalization to the whole population of interest. If it's non-probability, it's not as generalizable, but that doesn't mean there aren't important implications based on what you find.